Hello, it's week 10 of season 7 of the Andy Griffith Show. This week's episode title is Opie Finds a Baby. Opie is up at 6:30 on a Saturday morning to go fishing with Arnold. Arnold is a new boy in town, and Aunt Dee is up with him too to make his breakfast and attack his lunch. And then Opie turns on the radio to find out the weather, and all their noise wakes up Andy. And Andy comes in the kitchen and sits down too. And then Arnold comes in the house and he tells Andy he wants to be a sheriff just like him. And then Arnold and Opie leave. And on their way to the creek, while Arnold is claiming to have caught a shark in the creek last time, and Opie's saying there's no shark in that creek, they find a baby. Yeah, and a dandy dainty toy in a basket in front of the courthouse. It's got a note attached to it. Please take care of my dainty. And Opie wants to take it to his pa, but Arnold says no. If you do, it'll have to go to an orphanage like in Oliver Twist. And Opie says no, my pa will find him a home. And Arnold says no, they might be dead people. We should try to find him a good home ourselves. And Opie says okay, we can try. And they take the baby into their clubhouse in Opie's yard in a shopping cart. And Andy sees them from the house, but he can't see the baby because they got it covered up with blankets. And he asks Arnold about it when he sees Arnold come out of the clubhouse with the empty cart. And Arnold says we decided not to go fishing. We're having a secret meeting in the clubhouse instead, and the cart was to carry special blankets that throw off a poison gas if anyone tries to enter the secret meeting. And Andy says, oh, okay. And he goes back in the house. And in the clubhouse, they feed the baby with a bottle of milk that the mother had left in the basket, and they find some spare diapers in the basket too, and they realize they need to find a home for this baby real fast. And Opie says he'll go out first and ask around while Arnold stays with the baby. First he goes to Helen's house and starts talking to her about babies, how nice they are. And then he asks Helen whether she'd like to have the baby. And she gets flustered, and she says yes, when she gets married. And he says, how about before you're married? And she gets real uncomfortable, and she tells him to run along now. And later, Arnold asks Gooder whether he wants a baby, and Gooder tells him to go home. And then Helen and Gooder come tell Andy about each of these conversations. And Aunt Dee tells Andy, well, it's obvious that he's curious about where babies come from. Andy, it's time you go tell him the facts of life. And then we see Opie and Arnold burping the baby, and then Opie saying, I really should tell my pa about this, but Arnold convinces him to ask around a little bit more first. And meanwhile, Gooder is repeating to Andy what Aunt Dee said, and then after Gooder leaves, Aunt Dee and Helen dug into that some more. They want Andy to talk to Opie about the facts of life right away. And Andy says there's no big rush. And first he talks to Lou, Arnold's father, and he asks whether Lou has told Arnold the facts of life yet. And Lou says no. And Andy says it's time. And Lou wants Andy to do it so Opie can tell Arnold, and Lou won't have to tell him. Meanwhile, Opie is talking to more people about the baby, and Aunt Dee gets more complaints about it, and she calls Andy, and she says, talk to Opie now. So he says, send him to me. She tells him to go see his dad in the courthouse, and he and Arnold decide it's time to take the baby and show him. And Opie goes in first, while Arnold and the baby wait outside, and Andy starts to tell Opie about the facts of life. But then the couple who left the baby that morning come in. They're from Mount Tylet. They had a fight, and the woman left it there before she was thinking straight. And Andy says he doesn't know anything about a baby. And Opie says, I found the baby. And while Opie goes outside to get it, Andy warns the couple, and he's going to call the Mount Tylet sheriff. And if they ever do anything this irresponsible again, the baby is going to go to the welfare department. And they promise never again. And they're happy to see their baby when Opie brings it in, and they take it and they leave. And then Andy sends Arnold outside, and he finishes telling Ulti to thank some life. And later, Ulti tells Arnold he didn't want to spoil it for his Tala by telling him he already knew all about it. We'll see you next week for episode 11.